I'm going to go ahead and introduce you for those who may not have heard of our fearless new State Chief Information Officer, but Bill Kehoe joined WATEC as its director, as well as the state CIO on August 1st of last year. Prior to joining WATEC, Bill was the Chief Information Officer for LA County in California for a couple years. He has a history of managing information technology departments in local and state governments, including more than 15 years in Washington state agencies and counties. Before working as a CIO for LA County, he was in fact the CIO and Information Services Director for King County, and served as the first CIO for the Department of Licensing from 2002 to 2010. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering from Gonzaga and a Project Management Certificate from the University of Washington. He also is experienced in Lean Six Sigma, and we're thrilled to have him with us this morning. So with that, Bill, can you take over my screen?
I shall try.
Okay.
I got to read instructions. I thought that you all were going to take us through the slides, but that's all right.
We can. We can pivot. We're agile.
Yes, you are. A second here.
No worries.
So I want to know while I'm doing this, is it agile or agile?
Thoughts?
Agile.
Yes.
Agile.
Potato de pato. Okay.
The nice thing is that being agile, it can be either one of them.
I know, right?
Okay, why don't you just go ahead and present the slides? That's okay.
Yep. Rochelle will pull that up for us. Anybody else have a bad dad joke? I'm still shocked you don't have one,
Yeah,
Bill.
I sent. Oh, no, Bill, you have two, Bill.
Are they your jokes?
Oh no, I would never claim them. They're yours.
Yes. Okay.
They must have been really bad.
Yeah, that's what Nick Stokes always tells me. That is the worst joke ever. That's what he always tells me. All right. Well, thank you, Stacy, for that introduction. And I'm really pleased to be here with you all today to talk on a really, really important subject around Agile. I just want to thank our great folks at WATEC and our project management partners for putting this on. It's a really great time to come together as a community around these very, very important topics. So my purpose today is to talk to you about my experience and my thoughts and my vision for how I see Agile playing a role in the state of Washington. And this is from my seat as the state CIO and WATEC director. So as Stacy said, my background spans a lot of years with Department of Licensing, King County and Los Angeles County. And the great thing about being in these different places is that I have seen the transition and actually participated in the transition from more of a waterfall approach to software development to Agile, and have seen and have directed my staff through that, and have a lot of lessons that I've learned along the way. Specifically, in the small to medium application development area. But in King County and in LA County, I can share some experience that ways we were successful and lessons learned, and in some cases, why we were not successful with Agile. And I'm sure you all have your experiences as well. And that's one of the great things about being here today is that, we can share these experiences so that we don't make the same mistakes and we can learn from each other. I will say the start of my presentation here that the change to cloud was a game changer for Agile. DevOps, big change that has allowed us to move quickly and have a foundation for Agile development and methodology. So I think we all know that, but that's going to continue to be a factor. We're not moving away from the cloud. We're actually moving more and more into the cloud. So Agile is a big factor in that. I also am going to talk today about our industry partners, our vendor community. And I'm sure we've all have seen and have witnessed their transition to Agile methodology, especially in the SaaS offerings that are predominant in today's world. This was a significant shift in the industry as our vendor partners moved from, more of the traditional on-premise waterfall methodology to Agile. And this presented some challenges, I think, to governments in how we develop RFPs, statements of work, and how we really represented that shift from waterfall to Agile. So I'll talk about my experiences there and some things we continue to need to watch in that arena. Holding vendors accountable to an integrated schedule, deliverables, quality measures, testing, security requirements, and acceptance criteria for payment. All of that plays into the industry and their move to Agile. Other factors such as SaaS subscription fees, licensing costs, maintenance and operation considerations have really changed the landscape as the cloud has become the preferred platform and driving a different paradigm for government to manage and adapt to. So how well have we made this shift, and where do we have areas to grow and achieve the true Agile vision in the state? Have we trained our staff to adequately make this shift? And how are we managing our vendors that are using Agile to develop, configure, and provide services to our agencies? And where do we go from here with Agile in the state of Washington? So those are things that we're here to talk about today. So I'm really excited about that. So I always like to start with a authentic quote to really represent how I feel about Agile and Agile as a critical component in the state of Washington. So when I talk about our vision for the future and our strategic vision and where I see the state going and where we need to go, I always talk about accelerating that vision. And I think we need to have some accelerators when we're talking about things like modernizing our legacy platforms and systems, and then really helping our customers provide services to the public in a more meaningful way. So when I say critical component, I'm talking about that from both an internal and an industry perspective. That Agile will continue to mature and become more effective as we become more proficient in our internal use of Agile, and our industry partners also mature their use of Agile. So where I see the state of Washington going from a culture and a strategic vision place is more of a culture of innovation. That word is thrown out a lot, but when you look at how we're structured from a budgetary perspective, we're in 2-year cycles. We have supplemental, but mostly we're in 2-year DP cycles. The funding for, high impact, low cost type innovation, really isn't there in many cases for us to do. So that's a problem that I want to look at in my role. But we really need to move more to a culture of innovation where it's much more data-driven, where we're accelerating legacy modernization, and we're building an ecosystem that allows government to connect and integrate our data and our system silos. More and more, what we're hearing today is that we need to be a connected government. And that is, we need to connect what traditionally has been siloed data, siloed systems in our agencies. We need to connect that so that we can present a single view of state government to the people we serve. And this is an important vision for us to align to. Over the years, traditionally, we've been budgeted and we develop systems within our agencies. And more, we need to connect those systems, connect data, and have data flow across our enterprise securely and with privacy in mind as well. But that's the future that I think we need to move to. And to do that, we need Agile, because how do we connect? How do we connect systems? How do we connect data between different systems? It's all about Agile and making sure we can do that quickly and with some consistency. So within that vision, I think Agile plays a big role. And then we got to think about within that vision, how our IT investments are really focusing on improving the services to those in the communities, many of which desperately need government services to be available, accessible, and easy to navigate. How is that experience for some of our constituents today that need healthcare, that need social services, whatever it may be? And are we really focused on that? Which is why I'm so passionate about this connected government and presenting those services so they're efficient, they're easy to navigate, easy to enroll, versus having to go multiple places to get the services you need. So, you know, it's what we do in IT right now is very business focused. It's, you know, it's not really playing with cool technology and methodologies, but it's about how do we improve services to the public and partner with our agencies to do that and move in that direction as efficiently as possible. So when you think about what we're going to be developing in the future with SaaS, with cloud, with more and more of our large programs, multi-agency, it really looks to me like we're going to be developing services that connect data, connect business functionality. We're going to be those integrators between the cloud, between on-premise, between legacy systems, modern systems. We need that integration, and developing services, microservices, web services, APIs. That is really important. And to do that, Agile plays a big role. All right, next slide. All right, so I think we have another poll coming here after I get through the slide, but this is about for you to think, where are you in your Agile journey? Are you at the beginning stages and getting educated and talking to colleagues and other agencies, trying to understand the benefits, costs, and training required to make the shift? If so, that's not a bad place. It's just where you are today. And I'd encourage you to take your time. You don't have to rush into a decision, because moving to Agile isn't just an IT shift, it's a culture shift. It's a business shift, it's an IT shift. It's a culture shift for any organization. And it has to be, you have to have buy-in and leadership from the top to make the shift effectively. That's been my experience. You can't just do it halfway and expect that you're going to be successful. So if you're at the beginning of the journey, great. Let's, learn from each other and then plan your future and how you want to progress. Are you midway through your transition? Maybe you've piloted some Agile development or contracted with a vendor that has utilized Agile and provided some knowledge transfer to your agency. and educated you on how you could make the shift, but you're being patient and cautious, which is wise, and given the magnitude of the shift. Or maybe you're in a place where you have both Agile and waterfall. I think they call that waggle, right? Is that a term? I don't know. But I've seen that work where it's a mixture of both. And, you know, that really depends on the types of systems you're maintaining and modernizing. It may call for waterfall at some point and Agile at other times. If it's a legacy system that you're maintaining, you know, maybe getting requirements and going through those linear phases, development, testing, and deployment are essential for the type of system you have to minimize risk. So you might be in a place where you have both Agile and waterfall. So, or is your organization, you know, and your agency all up on Agile? You have fully made the transition, made the culture change, and are successfully managing your vendors who are utilizing Agile methodology to develop their services. You could be a great champion for the community and assisting agencies in moving forward in their journey and how to incorporate these new tools and platforms such as DevOps and others. So wherever you are, it's a good place, and forums like this allow us to share and learn from each other. It's not that anyone's behind the curve or ahead of the curve, it's just where we are as a state and where we want to go. And there's always more that we can learn and share, like forums like this. So given that, Stacy, I think we have a quick poll, don't we, to really get a sense of where everyone on this call anyway is at with Agile. And the poll is up. So what do we, and the results are?
Looks like 43%. Oh, the number keeps changing. Majority of folks say they're comfortable using either an Agile or waterfall, depending on the use case. 28-ish% are thinking about using Agile. A brave 4% admitted to not even thinking about it yet. 22% are midway through a transition to Agile, which is really interesting. And about 8% are exclusively following a mature Agile process.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So the state has really, you know, in a lot of ways made this transition. So a lot of questions there, like training, you know, how have you trained your staff, that I think throughout the day you can share. And, you know, what was the change management process look like? Did you have support from your senior leadership? You know, what made you successful for those 8% and even the 37% that are comfortable using Agile? So we can all learn from that. Okay, good stuff. Next slide. Keep me honest on time, Stacy. How am I doing?
You're doing great.
Okay. Okay, so here's some more things I'd like you to consider around Agile, and I'm sure you have some other thoughts here. These are just my thoughts and my experience. But the great thing that I've seen about Agile, when it's done right, and you have, you know, your Scrum Master and your product owner, and you're bringing the business and IT together on a product team, and you're moving forward with your defined sprints, is it really brings the business and technology together to solve and improve a business problem. You know, that's a huge benefit that I've seen over the years as organizations are moving into Agile, where traditionally maybe IT was a back office function, There wasn't a lot of collaboration and interaction with the business outside of maybe requirements meetings, which we all know over time, requirements can change, or worse yet, you deliver a product and have the business tell you, well, that's really not what I wanted. After you've gone through, a complete waterfall process. So I think we've all been there. But what I've seen with Agile, when it really works, is you're prototyping, you're putting together a product with the business in the room, and the outcome of that is usually something that the business customers can be excited about. They've got buy-in, they participated, they take ownership, and then they can also go out and train their staff as well. To get that further buy-in. So that's a huge benefit of Agile, where there are, especially if you have a homegrown application, where you have incorporated user-centered design into the GUI of that, that's really important. So I hope you've seen that in your experience with the, almost 46% that have really moved forward with Agile. That is a huge bonus, and I've seen that work really, really well. Where I haven't seen it work well is when business, for some reason, they're not the product owner, they're not at the table, and it's a pure IT group that's meeting on a regular basis. That is not a good recipe for success. So I think a really important element here is bring those folks into your Scrum meetings, your prototyping from the business area, those folks that are going to be impacted by the change or the application or the modernization. So I've also seen huge culture shifts where it really takes, especially IT, out of our silos and cultivates teams that create opportunities for better outcomes. Whenever you can have both the business and IT working together, having that strategic partnership, there's relationships that form, that last over time, that may have not occurred in the past. You start to form very high-performing teams, and the outcomes are usually much better than if there was requirements handed over the fence to an IT team to develop something. So I've seen that as a huge benefit. The culture change is significant, and I'd like to hear from those that have made this transition, what you've seen as far as a culture change. But I've seen a tremendous culture change in organization where there's not that separation so much between IT and the business. And there's a sense of pride in the outcomes and what's being built. It really is a culture change. It's not an IT change, it's a culture change for an organization. And then I've seen it as a very, very important accelerator for innovation, for prototyping and failing fast and failing forward. Small mistakes are easy to overcome when you're within a Scrum team and you're innovating, you're prototyping. You can move quickly. You can quickly work with the business, say, "Oh, that's not going to work for you. Okay, let's pivot and try something that is." So there's a lot of that innovation, that prototyping, that fast failing and failing forward that occurs. That's very, very positive. And then Agile, I think, really drives cloud adoption and ongoing maintenance. It really forces us to look to the future, and it really is set up for DevOps and some of the cloud platforms that are with us now and are on our horizon. And it's an industry best practice that's been adopted by most industry SaaS vendors. My experience is that now we're getting changes to, collaboration platforms, large SaaS applications incrementally now, instead of every 6 months or a year. I remember in King County, we had a PeopleSoft ERP application, and they moved to more of an agile methodology where we were getting updates on a frequent basis, where before it was every 6 to 9 months. So we're seeing the industry really move towards agile in this cloud environment and really put features and feature sets in at a much more rapid pace. Now, has that been clean and always the best? No. I think we're also seeing that sometimes errors are introduced at a more frequency as well. But as the industry matures, as the sprints get more focused, and as the testing increases within that agile methodology, I think we'll continue to see maturity in that area. Okay, so that's next slide.
Just a time check for you, Bill. You've got 5 minutes.
Fantastic. Okay, so here's some areas, I called it areas of focus and awareness, and where I've seen some problems. So in government, we create RFPs and statements of work, and the vendor community, our industry partners have to respond to those. And many times they want to respond, especially if it's a cloud platform, SaaS application, if you will, with an agile methodology. And so we really need to make sure that we have some good templates and examples of RFP statements of work that can allow for that kind of agile development to occur. If we're writing an RFP, and I've seen this happen, and it's more of a waterfall approach, yet the vendors that are responding have incorporated Agile, then it's not going to work very well. And the expectations between the vendor and us as the contract holder are very tough to meet those expectations. And I've seen projects really struggle when that occurs. So I think one of the things today out of today's meeting is, where can we find some good examples of RFPs, statements of work, that have allowed for and incorporated the Agile methodology? I think that's important. The other area that I've seen where Agile has not been good is when it's used just to move fast. And it really hasn't incorporated the discipline around the methodology. Things that I've heard, mostly from the vendor community, which I've really railed against, are things like, well, I can't possibly give you a schedule because we're Agile. Have you ever heard that? How would you think about a multi-million-dollar contract where the vendor tells you that they can't give you a schedule because they're Agile and they have sprints? And that same vendor that had the nerve to say that also got so far behind in their sprints that and we're trying to put everything into the later sprints that they ended up failing on the project. So this is a big deal, right? Where we have to manage our vendors that are using Agile. There is a way to schedule Agile, and I think that's a topic for today. We should never allow one of our vendors to tell us they can't schedule or can't give us a schedule because they're Agile. There's functionality in sprints they should be able to schedule, and we should be able to hold them accountable, and we should be able to track their percentage of development along the way. So that's something to watch out for, and requires us, to really make sure we're holding our vendors accountable and that they have the right disciplines in place. Oftentimes, we might have someone in the vendor community that says they're agile, but they're really just using it to move quickly. And I've seen where the quality of what they're producing is not good at all because they haven't incorporated good testing, good security, good privacy, good training along the way. So that's also something to watch out for. You can move fast with Agile, but you've got to be careful that you have a good foundation and good disciplines. And don't be afraid that, there are times when maybe waterfall or an Agile waterfall hybrid approach will work better. And, whatever the fit for purpose is, that's okay. There are times when, based on the risks and the environment and the culture, you might want to have waterfall, which is okay. So the role of the PM, I've also heard this from some of our vendors and also some of my staff in various places I've been. We're doing Agile now, so we don't need project managers. There's no place for a project manager. And I would be interested to hear your thoughts on that, but I told them that's not the case. We're going to have a project manager. It might look different, but all of the project management practices and disciplines can be applied, and that role is still, I think, very important within an Agile development environment. Okay, so those are areas to be aware of and focus on. And I know I'm out of time, but I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about this today. And really encourage you to share ideas and your experiences in this journey that we're all on with Agile. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill.